Yo, what's up, movie people? I hope you're doing well. We just got the release of Oppenheimer. My review's up on my channel, and go check it out. But today we're doing a Christopher Nolan tier list, all of the 11, so there are 12 movies that he's made now with Oppenheimer. So let's get right to it. Alright, before we get started, make sure to leave a like, turn on post notifications so you get videos when I upload them. But we're going to start from Nolan's first movie to his latest movie, which is Oppenheimer. Nolan's first movie is called Following. This is one that's really like under the radar for a lot of people, including me, because I just watched it for the first time just a week ago because I didn't even know it was out. But you can really tell like it's his first full movie. It's kind of like a short film though. Even though it is an hour and 19 minutes, it feels like a short film because the story is pretty fast and how it moves. But it's more of a Nolan movie I've found kind of like because a lot of Nolan movies are great and amazing. You'll find later in the tier list, but this one I didn't really have this one too high in my opinion. Honestly, I didn't care about the story too much in this movie. I did like the score a lot though. I love that it's shot in black and white. I love the non-chronological timeline that's going on in this movie. But other than that, I didn't care about the characters or the story. I liked how it was shot though. I thought that was very great. And it's just one of those movies where you can tell that it's kind of like a director, like an amateur director is kind of like making this because he was an amateur before he started making all these great movies. So The Following is his like first movie. It's gonna be a movie that you're not wanting to go back to, but maybe I'll go back to it someday. But it's just not a movie that I didn't really care too much while watching it. There were a couple great moments, great scenes with some great dialogue in them. But honestly, it's just one of those movies where I just didn't care for all too much. Even though I really wanted to like it, it's not one that I'll go back to too many times. So Following is going to go in the okay tier. Next up is Memento. Guy Pearce is in this one. I think Guy Pearce is fantastic in this movie. The way he portrays his character is absolutely fantastic. The way this story is told also is kind of like a following, like non-chronological story because it goes backwards. I really didn't know what was going on during those first 10 minutes, but the movie kind of goes backwards in one timeline, and the other timeline it goes forwards because you're learning about these different things with the character. Because I don't actually want to give too much away, but this character has a memory issue, is all I want to say. And it's done in such a way that I just wouldn't even imagine making a movie this way because it sounds so confusing to make it like this in the editing room. And whoever's editing it, they did a great job. But Chris Nolan did a fantastic job directing it. You can tell there's a big upgrade in this movie from Following and how he made it, how he got bigger stars for this movie. But honestly, the story kept me on the edge of the seat. And this movie had kind of a really good plot twist. But honestly, you could believe it either way, the plot twist, and either way how it goes. But I found this movie to actually be really awesome, really, really great. I have a hard time with this one because I was on the cusp of a 4-star for this one. But I'm near a 4.5 because I keep thinking about this movie and how it's told, how the story is presented to you and all the elements on this one. Because this is one you don't want to get spoiled into like a lot of other Nolan films and how he tells it. And I just think that Guy Pearce, though, he really sold the role and made it how you're in the mind of someone with a real life memory loss issue, how they can't remember anything about like what happened like 10-15 minutes ago. It's actually kind of insane how Nolan made this movie and directed it the way he did. How Guy Pearce's character, it's not a big spoiler, he uses pictures and writes on himself to know what happened in his previous like hours, days, and weeks, what happened. And the mystery that he's trying to solve is actually very great. I loved how it connected with his character very personally. So I really did like this movie, and I think the ending, as I said, is really amazing. How you're basically seeing the ending at the start of the film and the end of the film. I think it's awesome. So I'm going to put Memento in the amazing tier. It's not going to be high up in the amazing tier, but I think it's pretty amazing. Next up is Insomnia, though. Insomnia. This one actually has a really big stacked cast. We have Al Pacino, Robin Williams, Hilary Swank is in this one. The most stacked cast he's had so far in his career, his third film in. This one I find to be really good. It's kind of a much more grounded Nolan film because Following Memento are also pretty grounded, but they cover different topics such as like memory loss and all that. But Insomnia more focuses on cops discovering murders and trying to solve this one big murder. And I think Robin Williams' character is behind it. I'm not going to give away any plot details of that and how it goes down, but it follows Al Pacino, how his character is a detective and they're going on after Robin Williams' character. And I love the way it was told, But something about this movie didn't sit right with me. I gotta say, it was probably the story. Even though I find the story to be really good, I feel like there's just a little bit missing. And I wish there was a bigger plot twist in this movie, like all of Nolan's other movies. Nolan has some great plot twists that he thinks of. But, that kind of comes with this movie being more grounded in like a story that can happen in real life. And, I feel like the first half of this movie is actually pretty amazing. But for me, it started to lose steam during the second act, even though Robin Williams' character is more prominent in that second act. I wasn't as on board with it as I was in the first half and what the detectives are actually looking for, searching for, and how it all plays out in that first half. I think it's a lot better there. But I feel like this one is a film that I can go back to more than something like Memento and Following, because it doesn't really leave you as stunned as something as Memento. It leaves you more like fulfilled. The story fulfills you, and I think that's actually a great movie to go rewatch more, because sometimes Nolan films, as we'll get to the other ones, his films really hit me in a way where I'm like, God, that was a great experience. I don't know if I'll be able to watch that again. But Insomnia is a great experience, but I think I'll be able to watch this one a lot more, because it's a calm Nolan film, as I would say, and it ends on more of a finished note than some of his other ones. But Insomnia I do find pretty good, so I'm going to put Insomnia in the good tier. Next up on our list is Batman Begins. Batman Begins, our first superhero movie that Nolan did, and is basically his only one, because he did the Nolan Batman trilogy, and he said he's not going to do any more superhero films, so all the Batman films are his only superhero films that he's ever going to do. But Batman Begins is actually a really great film. Christian Bale took on this role after many others have taken on the role, and he actually added some different things to the role, and I think he made the role really his own, and I enjoy Christian Bale in this role a lot. I think he's my second favorite Batman, but I think he's my favorite Bruce Wayne, because his Bruce Wayne is like really, really Bruce Wayne-y. He really takes it to the next level with his Bruce Wayne character. And we actually do get to see a lot of Bruce Wayne in these Batman movies, which I actually really like, because in The Batman with Robert Pattinson, we don't get to see a lot of Bruce Wayne, which I kind of disliked about that, but I still think the movie's amazing. But Batman Begins, it's basically the origin story of Batman. We see a lot of different things happening in this movie. His parents dying, of course, how we see that in every single Batman movie. It's kind of ridiculous. But, I think this one's awesome. I love Cillian Murphy. We're going to get to him in Oppenheimer. But Cillian Murphy in this film as the Scarecrow was literally one of my favorite elements of the film. Liam Neeson is also pretty decent as the villain. But I think that Cillian Murphy as Scarecrow being the main villain would have been so much better, because those Scarecrow scenes in the second act when they get injected with the Scarecrow gas and all their basically nightmares come true in front of them, I thought that was very good imagery, and how Christopher Nolan did that and added that to the story. I thought that was awesome. It just made me want to see Cillian Murphy as the main villain in this film. But I think this movie has a really good 3-act structure. I think it works a lot, and I think it just works a lot as a great origin story. Sure, I would have changed a little bit in it, but I still had an amazing time with this movie. It's on the cusp of amazing tier, but for now I'm going to put it in the great tier. It's an awesome movie. Next up is The Prestige. Nolan basically took a break in a Batman film, and he made another film in between them all, which I really do appreciate. But The Prestige, though, I kind of want to tell a little bit of story between me watching The Prestige. So I first watched The Prestige, I think it was last October, November, for the first time ever. And I actually watched it on DVD, which I never watch DVDs anymore. And it was kind of like a full experience for me, because this is probably how people watched it when it came out like a long time ago, like over 10 years ago, I think. And, it was a full experience for me. I'm a big magician fan. Like, whenever I can see videos on YouTube about magicians, I really just click on them all. I love magicians. I love how magic works and all that. It's a very cool aspect of life and how people do it. And, I was anticipating watching this film, and it also has Christian Bale, Hugh Jackman, Scarlett Johansson. Stacked cast here, very stacked cast. Michael Caine also. Michael Caine is Christopher Nolan's favorite actor, I guess. He's in all of his films. I don't complain. But this film left such a huge impact on me when I first finished it, because I think this is Nolan's best twist that he's ever had, and his most impactful twist, because it hits so hard. Like, I'm not going to give away the twist because if you haven't seen it, I want you to go watch it. Like, this movie's twist is literally insane. I didn't see it coming, but when it's revealed in the movie, it's literally so perfect how it's done. And I love the story of just two magicians going against each other in this, like, I'm not going to say old world, but a world set way in the past. It's not like so far in the past, but it's set pretty far in the past. I love it though. Two magicians plotting against each other before, and then they were friends before. I love the story and how it's told. I love Hugh Jackman. He's kind of like, he's going more of a villainous role in this one compared to Christian Bale, how they're working against each other. I really do love the story here. Maybe that's just me obsessing over magicians. Maybe it is. But I just feel like the 3-act structure in this one is great. Even Michael Caine's character basically explains the 3-act structure in the first 3 minutes. And he explains how a magician does have a 3-act structure, kind of like a movie. I'm not going to give it away, but I think it's very smart how this film is written. And I thought every character was amazing. Even Scarlett Johansson, she was in the supporting role. I thought they were awesome. And all the magician acts are actually very well directed. I'll give them that. I don't know if Christopher Nolan has a big hand in magic, but I feel like those acts are very well done. And I just feel like this is really one of his best films, and I don't think a lot of people have seen it. Maybe that's just my thinking. Maybe a lot of people have seen it. Maybe a lot of you have seen it, but I don't think a lot of people I talk to who do love Nolan, I don't think a lot of them have seen it, but I think it's one of the best plot twists of all time. Maybe that's just me, but I really do. I think this plot twist is damn good. So The Prestige is, of course, going in the amazing tier. Next up, we have The Dark Knight. One of the best superhero movies of all time. Anyone can agree with that. Like, if you go up to someone who loves comic book movies and you ask him, what's one of the best superhero movie films, and they name off 5, one of them has to be The Dark Knight. If you're talking about The Dark Knight, it's going to be talked about in one of the greats in that list, one of the greats in Nolan's list. It's just an absolutely fantastic film, but also like a mesmerizing superhero film, and it's a pinnacle of that. And I was actually floored by what Christopher Nolan did in this one, but I'm even more floored at what Heath Ledger did in this one. Rest in peace to him. Sadly passed away. And I do love Heath Ledger in so many other films, but this film, he literally takes it to another level with being the Joker. Like, we all thought the Joker was like one of those villains that will never get a great person playing them, a great person acting in the role. We thought it was always going to be silly, but Heath Ledger brings some more serious tone to the villain with kind of like a little bit of a joke, a little bit of silliness, because it is Joker after all. But Heath Ledger brings some serious, basically toughness to the Joker, and some very good dialogue, good dialogue delivery done by Heath Ledger in this one. And I love his confrontation with Batman when they're in the street and the truck flips down and they're just basically fighting each other in the street. I love that a lot. And they're just talking a lot in this movie. A lot of this movie is dialogue driven, which I really do like. And then you have Rachel, and then you have Two-Face in this one also. I love those two characters. Two-Face, the design of Two-Face in this movie is absolutely incredible. It's kind of crazy how a lot of people haven't taken on the Two-Face role. Except in The Dark Knight, we have one of the best Two-Faces designs I've ever seen. I'm wondering if different people will take on the Two-Face role now, since we have better effects, better prosthetics. I wonder if we'll see a better Two-Face design than in this movie. But also Christian Bale, we can't go without talking about Christian Bale. His performance in this one leveled up, in my opinion. I thought he was great. He had Batman really had it all against him in this movie because Heath Ledger's Joker was absolutely insane. One of the best performances I've seen of all time, not even just a superhero film, I think of all time. It's just one of those performances that really grabs you, takes a hold of you, really, really gets you in the experience, and it's a great performance. It's amazing. He won an Oscar for it, Best Supporting Actor, and I think that's just amazing. I do love when people can win an Oscar for a superhero performance, because it shows that superhero films, if they're made to be an amazing film, they can win awards. They can be talked about in all forms of media, and I really do enjoy that. And it's kind of great how two people who portray Joker have won Oscars for it, Heath Ledger and Joaquin Phoenix. They all did amazing, but I'd still think Heath Ledger is a better Joker in my opinion, just because how the story was told for him and how he delivered each line. So The Dark Knight is going to go in the amazing tier for me. I think it's just an amazing movie. Next up, though, is Inception. Inception is kind of a hard one to talk about, in my opinion. because there's a lot of theories about what's going on in this film. I am going to get into spoilers on this one though, since I think everyone's seen this film. A lot of people I've talked to, they think this film is amazing. Nolan's best film, in fact. I'm not going to go that high in thinking that this is his best film. I still think it's really amazing, one of his best films, but I wouldn't go as to say it's his best film yet. I will get to his best film that I think is his best film soon. But Inception really does have a lot of theories going for it. A lot of people think that this whole movie is a dream sequence. A lot of people think that he's still dreaming by the end. A lot of people think he's not dreaming by the end because if his kids turn around, you can actually see their face. I think those are all interesting theories. I kind of take the movie as face value. I do enjoy a good twist, but I don't know if the twist isn't confirmed for me. I don't know how I'll really take it because I feel like there's just too much guessing going on. But I do like how Nolan left it open-ended compared to his other movies that he makes. I really do enjoy every single actor in this movie. You got a really stacked cast, but of course you got Leonardo DiCaprio at the main helm of the movie. He's the main lead actor of the movie. I think he does an excellent job in this movie. I love him in the role as Cobb. And overall, the story of this one is so original, I think, when Nolan made it. A movie about dreams and how dreams can affect you, how you can still think you're dreaming when you wake up, how you perceive these dreams in real life. I think that's a really interesting concept to really take on. And I love how Nolan takes on these real life concepts and really builds off them more differently in basically way more interesting out of this world idea. Like he made a dream within a dream within a dream, and how people can go into other people's dreams. I feel like that's very, very cool, and how he makes these little ideas and expands them into so much more. I feel like Nolan has a huge grasp on doing that, which I do appreciate from a director. But some of the imagery in this one is awesome, and it does include Hans Zimmer's score. I think this is one of his best scores, top 10 scores for me for Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer does a lot of scores, so it's hard to really rank them. Maybe I will someday, but there's a lot of them. But Inception is one of his best, and I really do enjoy the ending as being open-ended. I wish it was not as open-ended because there's a lot of theories about what's going on in this film. I don't know if Christopher Nolan has confirmed if he was still dreaming or if he's not still dreamed. But, I feel like Inception does belong in the amazing tier because it's just a fantastic film and like a really film that you do think about when you're done watching it. But next up, we have The Dark Knight Rises, the end of the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy, the end of the Batman story in this trilogy. And, a lot of people hate on this movie. I didn't expect it. I watched the Batman movies a long time ago. I rewatched them just this year to get ready for this ranking. And I've seen online that a lot of people are hating on it. I have Letterboxd. I do rate movies on there. A lot of people have it pretty low. But, I think this one's also pretty great. I do love the story of Bane and Batman brawling against each other. This one brawl they do have in the sewers is just fantastic. I love how Batman is just getting the shit beat out of him. It's really cool, but it's kind of scary seeing how powerful Bane is in this one. And I find it kind of interesting how Tom Hardy takes on the role of Bane, because you don't even recognize it's Tom Hardy. And his voice is, I don't even know how he got that voice, but it's kind of cool how he got that voice. But I do love Tom Hardy in the role. I think he does a fantastic job. And I think Christian Bale has a nice send-off in this movie. He goes from being broken to being reborn, and he's risen. It's Dark Knight Rises. He rises as a new Batman after being reborn, after having his whole body broken by Bane. I love that whole little storyline of him being broken. He has to basically work so hard to get back to where he was, to become Batman again. Physically, mentally. I do love stories about being reborn and basically rebuilt into a new person, but also being the same person at the same time. I really enjoy those kind of stories. We have Talia al Ghul in this film. This is one of the characters that I really don't like as much, because she has her little death scene that is one of the most fake death scenes that I've ever seen. No, I don't want to say that it's really that bad, but it's pretty bad when you watch it. It's so noticeable. I don't know how Christopher Nolan left that cut in the film. Like, it's a ridiculous take in my opinion. But I do love Batman's end to the trilogy in this one. I feel like his ending is really well done. Everyone thinks Batman's dead, but then he shows up at the end with Michael Caine's Alfred. That's fantastic. What a fantastic send-off for him. So I'm going to put The Dark Knight Rises in the great tier. Next up, though, we got Interstellar. Interstellar, I'm just going to say it right here. It's my favorite Nolan movie, and my favorite film of all time. I know, watch more movies. I know a lot of people are going to come at me, but it's just my opinion. We can all have our different opinions. But Interstellar is one movie that really impacted me hard when I first watched it. You know, it got me all types of different emotions going into it. It's a film that made me cry, made me laugh. It's a film that left me just awestruck at the end and in the middle. There's a lot of moments that can really just strike you visually and how it's made. But this is also the film that really got me into films. You know, it really got me into movies. I watched this film like 10 years ago, and I was just maybe not 10 years ago, maybe like six years ago. Maybe that's when I watched it. It's been a long time when I watched it the first time. But I do rewatch this movie a lot because it's one that just sticks with you so much. But it's also one that you just want to leave in the past because the first watch is so impactful. During COVID 2020, 2021 kind of too, they brought this movie back to my theaters. Also, some of the Batman movies, Inception too. I was able actually to watch a lot of Christopher Nolan movies during COVID when they brought them back to my theater, and Interstellar was one of them that they brought back. I was very happy to watch my favorite movie ever in a movie theater, and it still struck me that hard after watching it again. I wish I could have watched it in IMAX though when it first opened. Man, that would have been such a mind-blowing experience to watch that. I have never seen any Nolan movie in theaters, but if I were to watch one, it would be Interstellar, because it's one of those movies I could talk about it for hours, but I do love Matthew McConaughey in this movie. I think he brings in such a fantastic performance into the role that he's playing, Cooper. I love him in this one. Jessica Chastain, also pretty great in this one. But the whole story is what gets me. You know, you have a dying Earth, futuristic Earth that's dying. You only have like plants that can save it, corn and all that. And they have to go to space to find a way to save Earth, to find a new planet. They go to different galaxies. They not even drive, they basically take a spaceship through a black hole. And they made this black hole organically, like with computers and all that. Before black holes, we haven't had a picture of a black hole. It's absolutely fantastic how they made this movie. And the sequences in space where they're going into the black hole, holy crap, one of the most visually stunning pieces of cinematography I've ever seen. Can we just talk about Hoyte van Hoytema, the cinematographer? He does amazing films. He did a lot of Nolan films. He's doing Oppenheimer. He did Oppenheimer. He did Nope by Jordan Peele. Such great cinematography on that film. But cinematography in Interstellar is like maybe my favorite cinematography of all time in a movie. I feel like it's so good. Hans Zimmer also did the score. I'm in the minority. I think the Interstellar score is better than the Inception score. A lot of people disagree with me, but I think Hans Zimmer's score for Interstellar is one of his best, maybe top 3 score for him. I think the score is just astounding, elevates every single scene that it's in, and I love when they visit the different planets. I love how it all looks. I don't know if I want to give away the plot twist at the end, even though it's not really a twist. The resolution, let's just call it that. I don't want to give away the resolution because this film has a really interesting take on a futuristic resolution, and I really do love it how it ends. The last 30 minutes is just mind-blowing. Characters are all mind-blowing. Just a film that I go back to so much. The film that got me into film, made me want to go to the theater more, made me want to make a YouTube channel, made me want to talk about films with people, and I really do appreciate that with Christopher Nolan. He makes movies that you can talk about to people. You can really talk differently, make different opinions on what happened in the film. That makes me appreciate Christopher Nolan, Matt. That makes me like really, really like him as a director and how he makes his films, and that's why he's one of my favorite directors. But next up on our list, I talked about Interstellar for a long time. Next up is Dunkirk. Christopher Nolan's first war movie, first kind of real life story, and then he did Oppenheimer. But Dunkirk is his first real life story, I think, in my opinion. And Dunkirk was one that I watched for the first time 2 years ago. I think it was 2021. And I thought it was great, but I just watched it 2 weeks ago to get ready for this video. And it actually upgraded a lot for me. Like, maybe I didn't appreciate it as much when I first watched it 2 years ago because I watched it on my phone, which I shouldn't have done. But, you know, I just watched it on my TV back there. Probably on the other side. I probably pointed to the wrong side, but that's all right. But, you know, on a TV, it's a whole nother level of a movie. It's a great true story about Dunkirk and everything that happened there, everyone who was impacted, the whole story of rescuing everyone. I really do appreciate Nolan making stories about that, making a movie about a true story. I really do appreciate that because he can really elevate that kind of story, and I think that he did. You know, I think he elevates it to different ranges because this movie has an interesting timeline that it takes. You have one story that's taken in a week, one story that's taken in a day, one story that's taken an hour, and they all converge on this one point. You know, I could get into the details of this movie, but I want you guys to really experience this movie for yourself. They all converge on one point, and I think it's a great resolution how they all converge on this third act. Third act is really get your heart pumping. This whole movie gets your heart pumping because it's a war movie. War movies always get your energy levels up because of what's happening in the movie. You know, wars are a pretty bad thing, but they really get your heart pumping during movies because of what's basically happening in this movie. Like, there's a lot of crazy sequences. I do love how this one's shot too. I think Hoytema did this one also. Hans Zimmer also did the score. I think the score is great. A more calm score, but it really does get your heart beating during those big moments of the film. A score that I actually go back to and listen to a lot. I think it's a great score. So I'm going to put Dunkirk in the great tier. I think it's really awesome. Next up though is Tenet. John David Washington, Robert Pattinson, a lot of different people in this film, but those are the main stars. This one is Christopher Nolan's most divisive film, I would think you'd say. A lot of people hate it, a lot of people love it. I kind of think it's really awesome, just because it's really like a very interesting, but also confusing Christopher Nolan film overall. Because I saw this one when it came on theaters, and they released it during COVID, which is kind of insane for them to do that. I saw this one like 3 or 4 times in the theaters. This was my first new Nolan movie I saw in the theaters. And it was a crazy experience. Let me just tell you that. The sound was absolutely terrifying because of how loud they made it. You could hardly hear some of the dialogue. Sound mixing on this film isn't great. On the home video, though, it's a little bit better on home video. I can admit that. But the story overall, it took me a couple times to really understand what is happening. Like on first watch, I was like, what the hell did I just watch? What are you talking about? But on second and third watch, I got more of the story. Watching more YouTube videos, you do get more of the story. So if you've only seen it once, I would watch a YouTube video because it helps you really evaluate the story more, evaluate what's happening with their characters, and helps you really appreciate what Christopher Nolan is trying to say. I do think that Christopher Nolan should have added more exposition to this film because I think that's really what hurt it. Because the exposition, there isn't much. You really just go along with John David Washington's character and learn along like he does. But then he doesn't learn as much as you want him to learn, so you don't learn as much as you want to learn. So it's kind of disappointing how you kind of get a little confused during those second and third acts, during the middle of those. I do think it's cool that Christopher Nolan took a different take on a story and really made this one unique. I think this is one of his most unique films of all time because it takes on a story that's very futuristic. They even talk about the future in this film a lot. They actually cite Robert Oppenheimer's name in this movie, which is kind of cool. John David Washington, I think he brings a really great performance, but I think the standout of this one is Robert Pattinson. I think he brings a really nice charisma to this film that I like. Great supporting actor in this one. The thing where it struggles for me is the second act of this movie. I think the second act is a little weak, a little more confusing than the other ones. The third act, though, is fantastic. I love the third act of this one. Ludwig did the score for this one. I think the score is absolutely outstanding. One of the best scores I've ever heard, only because it really gets you going. And some of those tracks on the soundtrack, I listen to a lot. Travis Scott did the end credit song. Like, Travis Scott doing an end credit song for Christopher Nolan is something I never thought I'd see or hear in my life, but I did. You know, I did hear it, and I thought the song at the end was awesome. But enough about the song. I think the movie, it gets better on rewatch. You know, if you've only seen it once, I would rewatch it. It does get better. You understand it a little bit more. You understand the characters, which that's one of my favorite parts of the movie, were the characters, but also the effects that were used. The effects are pretty minimalistic throughout the first 2 acts, and I think they use them very well. Third act though shows some mind-blowing effects. Like, holy crap, this film on a technical level is outstanding. So I'm gonna put Tenet in the great tier. All right, last up on our tier list is Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan's newest film. My review is out, so go check for that on the channel. But man, this film was incredibly dense. Such a respectful audience when I went to go see it in theaters, because you usually have people just pulling out their phones, talking, but everyone was very respectful when they saw this movie. No one was talking. No one by me pulled out their phone once. A lot of people just stayed in their seats all 3 hours because everyone probably was just very into the film. It's very into experience that you really get to see Christopher Nolan's movie on the big screen in IMAX. It's a once in a lifetime experience. and you really get this whole story about Oppenheimer's life before the atomic bomb, during them building it, and then after. I feel like the 3-act structure works so perfectly with this film. And I just fell in love with the way it was told, the way the dialogue helped enhance every single scene. The score is so good. Holy crap, it's going to be on repeat for me. But the cinematography also, because the IMAX scenes, the IMAX ratio really helps out the cinematography by Hoytema and Hoytema. Such a perfect cinematographer. And I think this one's going to get a lot of recognition at the Oscars. I think that Chris Nolan could get his first directing Oscar, which is long overdue. Cillian Murphy's coming for that Oscar. Just give it to him right now. Come on. Give him the Oscar right now. He deserves it. But this film has so many different layers, which I really appreciated. Reminded me a lot of The Social Network. And I think it's a movie that needs to be seen on the big screen, needs to be seen in IMAX. It needs to be seen by a lot of people. It's rated R, but it teaches you a lot about history. And Chris Nolan, he knows how to get that across to the audience, which I really respected from him. It's kind of like Dunkirk, but very, very bigger, much bigger way. He gives everyone a really big line, everyone, a lot of actors are in this, a lot of notable actors. I think every one of them has a very crucial sequence, crucial scene, crucial piece of dialogue. I ultimately loved it on first watch. I can't wait to go see it again. What an unforgettable experience that will be, though. The lead up to the bomb was very tense, actually got me pretty terrified. And everything after the bomb was just kind of sad, kind of left you with a lot of just denseness in your heart because what Oppenheimer had to go through. But Oppenheimer is going in the amazing tier. Now we got our final ranking. Christopher Nolan has no bad movies, but the following is his only okay movie. Insomnia, good movie, only one on the good tier. Now we get to the great tier. The great tier, I'm going to put Dunkirk at the top of the great tier. And then I'm going to actually leave it like that because I love Batman Begins. Dark Knight Rises is a little bit better than Tenet, but Tenet's still a great film. And now we get to where the amazing tier happens. I think on the amazing tier, Memento's going to go in last place. Interstellar, it's of course going to go in first place for me. And then this is where the toss-up goes. What do I put in second or third place? I don't know. But Inception is going to go behind there. I love Inception a lot, but I'm not the biggest fan of it. Like, I don't think it's a perfect movie. So I'm going to go Prestige and then Oppenheimer in second place. That's my final ranking. Top 3 movies are just very life-changing. Oh, shoot. Prestige goes in fourth place. All right. I think Chris Nolan has a lot of amazing films on his resume. Everyone can have different rankings, and I feel like all those rankings could be good, except if you put Following or Insomnia in first place, then I just can't trust you at all as a human. But, every other ranking that I see of Christopher Nolan is actually pretty great. But Oppenheimer, I think, is a top 2, top 3 film for him. It's a very life-changing film for a lot of people, and it's very life-changing for me, and I think it's just an excellent film the way it's told. So that's my Christopher Nolan tier list. Leave your ranking down below in the comments. Make sure you like and subscribe. Turn on notifications. I upload almost every day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.